Hello everyone, welcome to Analysis Trends. I hope you have enjoyed the chapter 1 and chapter 2 videos of Babok Guide. And today we're going to start with the chapter 3, that is Business Analysis, Planning and Monitoring. So, welcome everyone back, and please follow the playlist, the Babok Learn Along series, where you'll find all the related videos from chapter 1. So, let's get started. So, business analysis, planning, and monitoring. This is the first knowledge area in the Babok guide, and this video is for everyone who is preparing the ECBA certification, CBAP certification, CCBA certification. Irrespective of certification, this is more over related to your day-to-day activities as a business analyst. So, I'm going to explain you in a very simple understanding as well as giving you a brief about it and I'll try my best to explain you how things works in real time with this chapter, as this is the first knowledge area and we have five different topics in this, and in this video we are only covering the first one, that is plan business analysis approach. So the complexity here is understanding. It's not a rocket science. You just need to have understanding of how a business analyst would use his mindset to tackle this task. Okay, so learn along with me, stay connected, watch the video till end, and please ask your questions in the comments. So let's get started. Keeping it very simple. So in this knowledge area, basically there are five subtopics. Business analysis approach, I mean the planning business analysis approach, planning stakeholder engagement, plan business analysis governance, plan business analysis information management, and then you got identify business analysis performance improvement. Let's not discuss other ones for now to keep it very focused. Let's only discuss about plan business analysis approach. What is expected from this chapter is what we are expecting or what we are learning. So the first one is we are doing a planning now. So you are at a stage, consider yourself as a business analyst and think that you want to now choose the activities or plan the activities that you need to perform while you do all your business analysis activities throughout your project. Okay, so that's where this chapter will help you to plan better for the activities you choose for, and how should a business analyst should plan his activities while he perform any of them. Okay, so moving forward, the core concept model here is mentioned again. If you have watched my previous video, you have come across BACCM matrix. I guess that is chapter 2.1, not sure exactly, but that is repeated here. It gives you the whole concept about change, need, solution, stakeholder value, and context. If you have not watched it already, I'll put the link in the description. You can go and watch this in detail. Okay, moving forward to chapter 3.1, plan business analysis approach. Consider you are a business analyst and you are now responsible to plan the business analysis activity that you're going to perform for any certain project. So how do you do that? What is the purpose? Why are we learning this planning business analysis approach? So we are actually learning to understand the methods that are conducted to perform the business analysis activities. Because see, before you even do anything, you need to have a plan. Let's say if you're planning for your birthday party, right? Now, conducting activities in birthday party is what your activities are, or is what your tasks are. But how do you plan? How do you plan before you even set up a party? You will have your invite guest, you will have your party manager, you will have your food menu decided, you will have decoration decided, right? What are the gifts, right? What kind of dress code would be? So basically, you are planning. So in the same way, before you even take any other further step, you plan it. So that's the reason we are doing the plan business analysis approach understanding here, and we are going to look how a business analyst plan his activities before he even initiate any of the tasks. Okay, let's move forward. So business analysis approach describes the overall method, right? That would be followed while performing business analysis at work. So there would be certain thing that you need to be performing, or certain task you need to be doing, or certain analysis you need to be doing. Everything requires a plan. Everything requires a predefined steps, and that's where it's described here. Now you have many techniques where you can plan based on the initiative or based on the work you're doing. That is what is mentioned there. Now, business analysis approach may be defined by the methodology. In some organization, if the organization is very standard, okay, and follows all the standard rules, then definitely they would be having a standards approach that need to be followed for any project you work on. If the organization doesn't have any standard, then it is that a business analyst should can define its his own standards, as well as can dependent on this particular knowledge what you're learning here. Based on that you can follow that procedures to build your own standards. So if it says if the organization standard does not exist, the business analysts work with the approach stakeholders determine. So whatever stakeholders want them to do it in a way they want to do, we can also follow that. Okay, so if the organization has a standard, you can follow that. If it doesn't, then you can follow the stakeholders approach or stakeholders way of determining the work to be completed. Moving forward, what are we actually approach? I mean, what kind of approach we are looking for any project we are doing? Here is we should be having a goal, right? A goal of every project. Now we should be aligned with the overall goal. We should be coordinating the business analysis task, the activities, and the deliveries of overall change we are doing. We will able to manage any risk that could reduce the quality of business, and also analysis deliverables and task efficiency. We leverage approaches and select techniques and tools that they have historically proven. So these are some of the approach we can go with while you are doing any plan, so that we don't acquire any risk, but rather we tackle them. So from now, this chapters from 3.1 till I guess 8 chapter or 9 chapters, every chapter will have purpose, description, inputs, then you got elements, then you got stakeholders and output. Sorry, guidelines and tools. Oh, so let me go back. So every chapter from now, every knowledge area will have purpose, description, input, elements, guidelines and tools, techniques, stakeholders, and output. So every chapter 3.1 from 3.1 till 8.5, something like that, will have in this format. The purpose is why are we doing, the description is the detail about why are we doing, the inputs to this now. So the what kind of inputs you need to plan any business analysis approach you're doing. The inputs is the opportunity or the problem you are facing in the organization. See, any project starts with an opportunity or a problem. If there is a problem that is identified by the stakeholders that need to be tackled, there is an opportunity, right? There is a work to be done, and that's where the planning is comes into picture once we identify the opportunity. Okay, and that is a need, basically that's an input to this process. So any planning starts with a need before, and the need can be an opportunity or can be a problem, right? Next, the elements. So the elements are nothing but the actual tasks that are performed by analysts. And in this planning approach, there are five different elements. How would be the planning approach should look like? What kind of formality you need to be maintaining when you're doing a planning, right? Then what kind of activities are performed while you do planning? Then the timing of business analyst work should be for each of the tasks you do. How do you want to plan that? And then the last one is last second one is the complexity and risk that you need to be identifying while doing planning. And then the acceptance, whatever you're doing, whether that is acceptable or not, right? That is also an element. So let's go into each of them one by one. Okay, so planning approach. So basically understand, in olden days, I mean not olden days, I would say a decade back, there was a waterfall method, and now we are using the agile method. Now what's waterfall and what's agile, and where it actually stands? If you look at this clearly, everything stands here. In the planning approach, the whole Babok says there are two types of approach. One is a predictive approach and one is an adaptive approach. So predictive approach is basically we need to be having uh, a solution is completely defined. That means everything, every requirement is actually defined before even we take any step in actually building it. Okay, that is a waterfall. That means if you want to, let's say if you want to build an application, all the requirements, all the features, how the user experience should be, everything is being correctly defined. Requirements are collaboratively collected, and then based on that, the development gets started and it goes for an year. The reason waterfall method is not followed because in waterfall method, the changes are not accepted. That means all the requirements you collected before you implement any, before even you start implementing any solution or any program, changes are not accepted in waterfall method. Okay, and that's the reason nowadays you don't use a waterfall method for most of the projects. What is an agile method? Agile method is similar. Again, you want to build a software application, but in this time you will not collect all the requirements at once. You will take the requirements based on the priority and do those and start working on those requirements until you finish them. And meanwhile, if there are any changes that need to be done in the existing requirement, you can do it as well as per the agile methodologies. And the next time, once the changes are done, once the initial requirements are actually built, then the next requirement are actually being considered. And based on the previous requirement, the changes also need to be looked into. That is what is the actual method that need to be followed while doing agile. So in agile, changes are accepted while development of the project. In waterfall method, the changes are not accepted throughout the project. That's the major difference. Okay, and that is what is explained there. Okay, next is the formality and level of detail a business analysis deliverable should be. So, what kind of formality you need to be following, right? The formality level of detail, that is nothing but the documents or the presentations or the way you actually want to show the process you are being identifying. Let's say you have collected a whole gather requirements. How do you want to present it? So, as per the predictive approach, that is a waterfall method, a detailed documentation was necessary. But in Agile, instead of creating a detailed documentation, a scope is defined for a certain requirements. And based on that scope, the solution or the feedback is coming immediately, right? And that's where the predictive approach follows a high level documentation approach, or a level of formality will be high. For adaptive approach, with respect to level of formality will be low. Now, consider that why we need to actually document. Okay, the change is complex and high risk. So let's say the changes that you're making can be complex and high. So no matter you're working on agile or waterfall, you need to be capturing a document for every project you're working, because that will help you to tackle the steps that are mentioned there. So any organization you interact with them, there might be regulators or regulated industry that you need to be aware of, right? Contracts that are signed that you need to be aware of. Stakeholders are geography located, you don't work in the same place, so probably the documents might help them to understand. Or your team members might work in different locations, so for them also it will be this helpful for them to be on the same page. So the reason basically this approach need to be having a constant level of formality here, because both of the predictive as well as non-predictive, the level of formality should be maintained based on the organization. Okay, and you see the difference there. The approach are two types: predictive and adaptive. In case of solution definition, the whole solution, I mean whole requirement is defined before even the initiative of the task is done in predictive. Now in adaptive, define in iteration. Let's say we are doing certain phase of that work, we define, we build it, and then we go for the next phase. Level of formality is the formal in case of predictive, where it's informal in case of adaptive. Okay, then activities that are required to complete deliverables are identified first and then they're divided into tasks, whereas here the activities are divided into iterations, and delivers are looking into first and then associated tasks are identified. The timing, so tasks are performed in specific phases. Here the tasks are performed in iteration. We do a back to back development, let's say 1 week development, and then again the next week development. So that's where the definition of the formality level of how you want to proceed with that approach. Next is a business analysis activities. So business analysts provide a description, right? Basically of the types of activities that he will be performing. So first thing is identifying the activities required to complete each deliverable. So you need to be identifying the activities that need to be done to each and every task, then breaking down that activity into each and every task. Now dividing that work of what you're doing in into an iterations. I mean, identifying the deliverables in a set of iterations, and then defining what kind of iterations or what kind of task you want to be doing in that particular iterations, and then using a previous similar iteration and outline and apply detailed task and activities unique to the current initiative. That means it's whole about Scrum. It's a sprint model. That means let's say you want to do 100 tasks and you're identifying in the first iteration I'll be doing 10, then you define those 10, then in that 10 you will define what are the tasks that need to be done, and based on that task you depend on the current initiative to complete that task, and then only the similar initiative will be taken next time. Then the next 10 tasks will be considered into picture. Next is the timing of business analysis work. So business analysts determine whether the analyst work will perform and what kind of level analysis effort that need to be needed varies over time, because sometimes you analyze and plan that resources are available, but let's say at certain stages resources are not available, that would delay the task, right? Then you need to also have to understand what kind of priority and each and every task should have, to whether that need to be done urgently or can keep on hold of that. Then what are the concurrent initiative that need to be taken? Let's say if your tasks are dependent concurrent, then instead of doing the last task, let's try with the first task. Do not skip the middle task. Do not go directly to the third task. It should be in a consistent manner, right? Then this all things need to be defined by a business analyst before even you take any initiative or before even you to pick any task. Then the complexity and risk come into picture. Now the complexity and the size of the change and overall risk efforts organizations are considered when they're determining business analysis approach. So complexity and risk decreases and increases based on the scope of the work. Okay. Now here, what kind of complexity you might see when the factors come into complexity, like the size of the change. So let's say if while you're planning you got one activity that you need to be doing, and after that you have implemented that and then you got a change in the requirement. So the size of change can be a complexity. The number of business areas and system affected can also be a part of risk. The geographical and cultural consideration. So probably if I'm offering my products into regulated markets, I need to be very aware of the cultural considerations. Then the technological complexities. What kind of technical skills, what kind of technology acceptance is basically needed for doing this task, right? And any risk associated that with that. Now, factors that can implement the risk level of business activities are. So the first thing is, if business analyst is not that experienced to do this planning, the experience level of business analyst can also be a cause of failure of this project. Okay, then the extent of domain knowledge. If the business analyst doesn't have a knowledge about the business, about the domain knowledge, then it will be again a risk for the project. Experience level of the stakeholders, because the stakeholders are the one who give the requirement, right? If it doesn't have an experience about the product, then that would be again a loss or a fail for the project or a risk for the project. The amount of time allocated by stakeholders, if it is less, and if it is more, even it's a risk for the project. Methods, tools you select, culture, norms, anything that is kind of not per the standard, not per the what you can say understanding, and it's like not unmatured activities can lead to a risk and can lead to a failure of the project. The last one is acceptance. So any activities you perform basically need to be assessed or needs to be accepted by the stakeholders in any organization you work. So any requirement you collect, that need to be signed off. The reason we want to sign off, because it will be a mutual agreement, mutual understanding between both of you. It will be very transparent that these are the requirements, these are the definition of the requirements, and we're going to initiate this task in this way. So acceptance is very, very important for reviewing and accepting changes, and that would definitely help any business analyst to be very transparent and would able to tackle all the complexity and risk at during that time. So make sure that any activities you are performing, you should have the requirements collected, and then probably you need to have that understanding of making exceptions. Now, going in a simple terms, if I go and explain you now, planning approach, we are planning how do you want to do it. If you want to do it agile or waterfall method. If you are going with, let's say we are doing with agile, then the formality level will be informal. You need to build a lot of process models, but instead of documents we'll build a lot of process models. Now any activities we are performing will be divided into activities into task, and we do all the task in an initiatives or iterative way. We'll select one period of time as a sprint, and then we do those tasks in a sprint, and then next sprint, and then next sprint. We majorly focus on the priority item. We find the concurrent dependent items, and we cut down them into dependencies, and we'll able to try to do them in a proper manner. We identify the risk before even we initiate the task. In case of technology aspects, in case of stakeholder experience, business analysis experience, team experience, resources experience, and then finally, before even we give the task to developers to do it, we take the sign off from the stakeholders that everything we have collected, everything we have required, whatever requirement gathering we have done is actually correct, and now we can initiate the tasks to actually build it. And that's where the planning approach says. Now, guidelines and tools will help you to how to approach this one. Who can you actually ask for? Business analysis, performance assessment, you can do, and you can identify what kind of requirements that need to be assessed. Policies, you need to be having understanding, because based on the policies only we'll have a business domain knowledge. You need to have expert judgment advice, that is from the stakeholders. The methodology and framework you use basically need to have a proper tailored methods and techniques defined. Stakeholder engagement approach, wherever you communicate with the stakeholder for accepting the requirement you do, you need to have a proper stakeholder engagement approach. So there are many techniques where that will be helpful for you while you do a planning. Can be brainstorming to requirement gathering, business cases when you read about domain knowledge, document analysis when you have any document already created, estimations for helping the time, financial analysis. So there are so many. We would cover detailed technical techniques in our chapters. That is 10th chapter. The video is so long. That is the reason I don't want to cover here. But stay tuned for techniques. That will be the last chapter. So for now, it's like these are the techniques that are actually can be helpful while you do a planning session. Next is the stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders who will be involved when you do a planning? You will be involving with domain subject matter expert, right, for business knowledge. You will be involving with project managers to define the resources. You will be involving with regulators, that what can be the complexity and challenges. You will be involving the sponsors, like what is the opportunity or what is the problem that we are going to solve. All right. Then the output. So once you do all this task, you will have now understood that what kind of approach I'm choosing, whether I'm going with agile, whether I'm going with waterfall, what kind of level I will be working with, how many, how is my way that I will be tackling the complexity and risk, how would I will be doing the sign off process, how would I initiate my work, how would I divide work into tasks, and what are the resources who are working, who are the project people that will be working with me. So everything is planned and very well defined by using this chapter. So the video is so long, I'll try to cut down it short next time for the next chapters. But if you have watched till end, so please do subscribe my channel and comment below if you really liked it, and if you have understand whatever I'm saying, it will give me more confidence to build my next videos. And trust me, if you give me confidence, I will build the whole Babok videos next to each and every chapter, and we'll complete the ECBA series very shortly. Thank you, and stay connected. Follow my channel on Instagram, follow me on LinkedIn, go through my profile. You will have understanding of how a business analysis works is done, and also go and visit analysistrends.com. So thank you everyone. Stay tuned. Goodbye.